Tell him about the time we faced them.
All right. Well, as I remember.
At Avenger headquarters.
Because united, the Avengers are strong.
Welcome to the Marvel D&T Evolution podcast with myself, Andy Stead.
And I'm Jarian Gibson.
And I'm Alex Stroud.
And we are welcoming back Monte Harry for our special Eternals preview episode. How are we doing, Monty?
Wonderful. Glad to be here.
Excellent. Always a pleasure to have you on, my friend. Always a pleasure.
Thank you.
We'll get, join in the conversation. You've been here before. Special returning guest. So you know how this flows. So, guys, again, it seems like every time we come on recently, I keep saying this, but again, it's been another little bit of a longer period in between. And it's nice to get back on and carry on geeking out with you, lads.
Likewise.
And when we have Monty on, let's take a look at Monty's shirt because he's a very interesting shirt on there. So,
wow!
like
I didn't even notice that. That's excellent.
Yeah.
Prince of the Ravagers.
Wakandan Prince and the Ravagers. I love it.
I love that shirt.
Yeah, it popped up for me I think on my Facebook ads or something. I was like, "Yep, I'm buying that."
But funny, isn't it? Sometimes you make these impulse purchases. You just see something. Yes, I'm going to get it. I'm going to buy it.
80s nostalgia plus Marvel What If. Yeah, just sign me up.
Yeah, take it. Nice. So, like I said at the top of the episode, we're going to be previewing Eternals, which is out later this week. I've got my tickets, IMAX on Saturday. Can't wait. So yeah, we're gonna chat a little bit about that. We might go over what we've seen in the trailer and what our expectations are for that movie. But before we get stuck into that, we're going to cover a couple of little pieces. I say little pieces of news. There's some good stuff going on, Jarian, and I know you've got a couple of things that we're going to delve into a little bit. So let's crack on, shall we? Yeah.
So let's start with the Morbius one. So today, a new Morbius featurette was released. And so far in Morbius, we've seen the Daily Bugle. We've seen Adrian Toomes' Vulture. And we've seen the Spider-Man suit. But in the featurette today, if you actually take a screenshot of the paper, the Daily Bugle, and you zoom in on it, it talks about the Rhino and it talks about Black Cat as well. And then tomorrow, the full trailer is supposed to be released for an updated Morbius trailer.
Interesting. Now, if I'm honest, I don't really know much about Morbius at all. Other than just a little bit. I mean, I don't know. I know, Alex, you're into, you like a bit of Moon Knight and you like a bit of Ghost Rider. You like that kind of, those darker, more sort of spiritual sides. Have you got much experience with Morbius?
I don't. I know a little bit about him, but just a very, very small little bit, because he's not really like a real vampire. He's kind of like a
hybrid.
He's kind of like a science-made kind of base vampire almost,
He was searching for a cure of some sorts, and basically through scientific or what have you experimentation ended up a vampire.
Yeah.
Nice. Is he, because he's quite an obscure character, is he not? Am I right in thinking that?
He's in the world of Spider-Man, he actually is he's a decent regular on Spider-Man. I think he pops up in Blade also. But yeah, I mean, listen, are obscure compared to the Avengers roster, sure, Spider-Man, sure. But I think if you're a Spider-Man fan, you're read a lot of ASM, you definitely know Morbius, and I think there's a lot more people than you might think are hyped for this movie. So be interesting to see it.
Yeah, I'm certainly interested in it. I mean, we haven't seen anything on that sort of dark side of Marvel for a while. I mean, I know you can sort of say Venom, but it wasn't really a dark movie, was it? It was quite comedic, but we haven't seen anything on that sort of darker side of Marvel since really the Netflix shows.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see if they can pull off something with a little bit more edge to it in that respect,
Definitely agree.
I tell you what would be interesting, actually, once that, when is that movie due? Is it February?
I think January, February. Yeah.
Yeah. I tell you what would be interesting, because I know we're going to have Luke back in who
For
we
No Way
had on a
Home.
little while ago
Yeah.
for No Way Home. Be interesting if like Monty was saying, I know that Luke's a big
Spider-Man.
Amazing Spider-Man. Yeah, he's practically everyone, as I think he said when he was
Yeah.
on. So it'd be interesting to have him
knows?
back on as well. Yeah, so it'd be interesting to have him see what his thoughts are on Morbius before and after the movie as well. So maybe that's something we'll have to approach him on. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited for it. Like I said, it'd be interesting to see that darker side of Marvel.
Yeah, and then also too in that featurette, Jared Leto, who's playing Morbius, also kind of teased the Spider-Man crossover by saying there is going to be a web of possibilities. So it sounds like they are bringing that whole Spider-Man universe together on the Sony side, and I'm actually excited to see Jared Leto. I thought he did pretty well as the Joker. I loved him in Requiem for a Dream, also in Fight Club. So
Yep.
He's
a great
got some
actor.
Yeah, he's got some really good acting chops, and I'm excited to see him.
Yeah, as long as he's not playing Joker.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I liked him as Joker.
Yeah, I didn't mind him, and I understood what he was trying to do as Joker. But I think I mean, let's face it, you're trying to follow in the footsteps of
Heath Ledger.
and Jack Nicholson.
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
You literally,
Jack
I mean,
Nicholson, yeah.
Jack Nicholson, one of the greatest actors who's ever lived
Of all time.
and then Heath Ledger, which as an actor probably not necessarily up there, but certainly as that performance was 100% up there with one of the greatest sort of character performances of the modern era anyway. And
But you didn't mention Joaquin Phoenix though.
Oh, I didn't,
True.
did I? And
Right.
and I'll tell you why, because I love that movie. I really, really enjoy that, but I don't consider it. I don't even think about it as a superhero or a comic movie at all.
Continuity, yeah.
Yeah, it's and it is great, and he is very good in it. But it's if comic book movies span this space here, Joker's over there somewhere.
Okay.
I still, it's great. I love it, and I think he was awesome. But
It's almost kind of like a psychology movie, almost.
Yeah.
Kind of like how somebody like that ends up being created, kind of type feel.
Right.
yeah, I mean, come on, you must have felt sorry for him? I mean, I did nearly the whole way through the movie.
Yeah. I mean, he's definitely meant to be this kind of sympathetic anti-hero, and then you see the craziness, you see what makes him break, you see what brings him to where he is. I mean, it's just descent into madness kind of story, and I love that. But yeah, so you're like you said, it is a separation from your typical, superhero genre.
Has anybody seen Falling Down with Michael Douglas?
That's one of my favorite movies.
That's basically. Can you imagine Joaquin? It's Joaquin Phoenix. That is the Joker.
Yeah.
It's the same story. He just gradually breaks as the movie goes on. But I like what you said, Alex. It's like a psychological sort of movie, and watching that sort of one man's demise kind of thing. But it's hard to. Has anybody read any stuff from Jordan Peterson? By any chance, Dr. Jordan Peterson?
Yep. He's a big evolutionary psychology guy. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, and he talks a lot about like context, and he says in there about if I told you that this is going to get a bit dark now, by the way, but if I told you that a mother murdered her 6-year-old or killed her 6-year-old daughter, you'd think monster. But then if I told you that same mother was, abused by her stepdad all throughout her childhood, and she was treated badly, kicked out on the
trauma
street. She was forced to be a drug addict, and forced into things she didn't want to do, and ended up conceiving in a way that she didn't want to conceive, and then she lost her only source of income, and her daughter was annoying her that night. I'm not saying it excuses it, just changes the outcome, doesn't it? And you can see how these people go down this slope, and I'd love to I'd really like to hear Jordan Peterson break down the Joker. That'd be awesome.
And on that same note, I'd really like to see them kind of play a little bit more with villains going forward in Marvel, as to like giving us that, hey, this is why they are the way they are. I think they've tried to do that a little bit, but for the most part, they still kind of fell into the old archetype of guy's a villain just because evil, you know.
Yeah.
Whereas I'd like to see like I think they did a good job with Vulture in Spider-Man Homecoming, you know, showing that, you know, here's a guy who was trying to do the right thing, got kicked down by, you know, government and Tony Stark, and all this kind of, you know, fell on him, and he just lost his whole business, and it was either feed my family or, you know, kind of be broke, and he chose to feed his family and got into a life of crime.
Yep. They would have to survive.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think they are. If you look at sort of not there is the sort of typical villain, isn't there? You know, that like you said, he's just evil. But then actually they're starting to blur the lines a little bit, like Loki started blurring the lines.
Yeah.
It looks like Kang or He Who Remains or whoever it's going to end up being. That kind of blurred the lines a little bit. He wasn't totally evil, you know. Renslayer, she's got some, you know, that whole movie was like, sorry, that whole show. We spoke about it, didn't we, when we was doing the recordings about it's good, bad, what's good, what's bad, you know, and I like that whole idea of questioning the morality of a person, regardless of whether they're good or bad. And I've mentioned it before about Cobra Kai, Cobra Kai and Johnny in Cobra Kai. And you see that whole other side of Johnny's character, and you kind of going, oh, actually, yeah, when you look at it like that, he was beaten up by a karate master when he was only a child, and he did have water dumped on his head while he was trying to go to the toilet, and he was punched after a guy stole his girlfriend, and you're like, it makes you think. But
I mean, I'd be pissed too if I was rolling a J and someone dumped water on me. You know, rolling a J, mind your own business, and some punk kid pours water on you.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. All he was doing, he wasn't doing anything wrong. He was fine. Yeah. But no, I'd like to see that. You're right. But we've digressed hugely there from Morbius.
Yeah. Let's keep going.
But
all
still,
right, so
we want to see Morbius.
Yes. So next piece of news, this today, is that Jim Carrey is rumored to be playing Modok in the MCU. Now, I don't know how I feel about this one, because I think the only superhero type thing we've seen Jim Carrey play was the Riddler in one of the Batman movies. You know, I think it was one of the Clooney ones, or
one of the
Kilmer.
It was
Val Kilmer.
It was the Val Kilmer, the
Okay.
only Val Kilmer one. Yeah,
I can't remember.
It was one of the. Yeah, it was one of the awful ones.
Yeah.
It was with Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Two-Face,
You're right.
Yeah. Correct.
Yeah, so I'm not sure how I feel about that one. Jim Carrey has had some good things. Like I loved him in Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. You know, type of role and those things, and some other things he's played in. So we'll be interesting to see if this is one comes out to be true and how he approaches that role.
I'm a big Jim Carrey fan, if I'm honest. I'm a big. I enjoy pretty much everything he does. I can even suffer Cable Guy, to be totally honest. But I'm a big Jim Carrey fan, and I like him as a person. He seems like a really cool guy as well.
Yeah,
really down to earth type of guy. I've heard him speak quite a few times at different, not in person. I'd love to see him speak in person, but watched him speak a few times, and he seems very, very intelligent. So I'd like to see him in an MCU role. I don't know much. Spoke about two people I don't know anything about. I don't really know much about Modok, if I'm totally honest either. I know little bits. Probably seen him more in cartoons than I have in comics.
Yeah. Well, there's the Hulu series as well that they have now.
Wasn't really that great.
They did a
no, it was not. It was Patton Oswalt, and they kind of tried to make this robot chicken-esque.
It was entertaining
concept to it.
Yeah.
It wasn't, but listen, I'll tell you about Jim Carrey in that MODOK role. I think that has the potential to be phenomenal casting, and the reason why is that Jim Carrey has this way of being like he can be that everyman, that person that's sympathetic, another sympathetic type of character that you feel bad for, and I can see them really kind of doing that because George Tarleton, who is MODOK. So MODOK originally was an AIM, just a regular technician at AIM, and then they experimented on him and made him into MODOK. So I could see them going in a route where like he's just a regular guy at AIM, and then like maybe he gets picked for this project. He may not even know he's like becoming MODOK. Maybe they do something like that or giving him a serum.
Or some accident happens, maybe.
Or an accident happens, exactly, something of that nature. And I could really see him. And then obviously, once he goes full Modok, he does all the facial features and the crazy stuff like that. He could definitely pull off the maniacal side. But I think he can do that transition from zero to villain, sympathetically kind of character. I like it. I like it.
I 100% agree with what you said there. And it actually leads on really, really nicely to what we was just talking about seeing the other side of villains. I'd love to see that Jim Carrey at the beginning of Bruce Almighty, he's sort of getting trod on a little bit, every aspect, he's trying his hardest. He wants to do well, but he's just not quite, he's just not quite making it, and then
getting his legs kicked out from underneath him.
And imagine he's that same scientist at AIM, who's that same thing's happening to, and he kind of almost gets like bullied into taking this, like to doing this. Yeah, you want to be something, don't you? You want to make something of yourself. Yeah, why don't you go and put yourself forward for this program then? And then you'll be something. And he's like, oh, all right, then I'll do it for my family or something, and then and then we go down that route, and then it gets twisted and he gets lost. I think that'd be a really cool way to do exactly what we was just talking about seeing that sympathetic side of the villain. And like you said, he's got the acting chops to be able to then pull off that maniacal, villain.
Yeah, the facial expressions and the reactions, I think, is what he's going to really bring to that role. That was a good point there, Monty. I didn't think about that.
Wicked. Yeah, nice. Excellent. Where's he going to turn up, though? What could he turn
Armor Wars?
Ooh, yes. Because it's more AIM. It's AIM.
Because that's AIM. Yeah. I mean, so Modok's been traditionally I believe a Captain America villain. So he could turn up there.
Captain America 4.
He could turn up in any sort of Avengers crossover, or like you guys just pointed out, very easy entry path would be anything related to maybe War Machine, Iron Man, Iron Wars,
Power Broker.
Yeah, exactly.
So we've seen Rhodey turn up in Sam's program.
Falcon Winter Soldier. Yep.
Yeah. So will we see Sam turn up in Rhodey's program? And will we see AIM in Armor Wars? So, I mean, that makes sense. So will we see, what did you say his name was, Monty? Sorry,
George Tarleton.
George Tarleton. Will we see George Tarleton be experimented on? Maybe that's a sort of a little Easter egg that they're going to leave in Armor.
Yeah.
And we could see Sam crossing over, and then we could see that, like Jarian's just said, in Captain America 4.
Another one too could be Wakanda Forever / Ironheart as well.
Mm-hmm.
Depends how they do it. Maybe that's to be another one, because we don't have Iron Man anymore, but we do have Ironheart coming. So
yeah, I definitely think whatever direction we go, I think we see him Easter egged in or featured in as George Tarleton first, and then we see that later on, whether he's in a post credit, and then we see him in the next movie or whatever they decide. But I think we see that progression. I don't think he'll just come in as Modok.
And wasn't there an AIM teaser in Black Widow? I thought in one of the in the fortress and the base they had, I thought one of the containers said AIM when they're working on Yelena getting ready to redo her mind control stuff. I thought one of those containers said AIM.
Maybe, I don't remember.
Okay,
I don't remember either, if I'm honest.
Well, in the MCU, isn't like extremists technically AIM, right?
Yep.
So wouldn't we had that one scene in Shang-Chi where
we saw
they had the extremists?
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, we did, didn't we? Yeah, that's a good point.
And a Black Widow.
Yeah, they were
fighting each other.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they were. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, I love those little Easter eggs, those little drop-ins. I love how now as well, though, that they're that the Easter eggs, these little drop-ins in MCU movies, are Easter eggs from previous MCU movies and not necessarily from the comics.
Yep.
Right.
I like how they're little nods to what's gone before them. It makes it feel very it gives it longevity, doesn't it? It's like, oh, this has been around for a long time. You know, the MCU has been around for a long time, so long that they can reference something now that happened 10 years ago. And we all go, oh, blooming hell, look at that, rather than referencing something that was really English of me as well, wasn't it, by the way? Blooming hell. Blooming hell, look at this.
Yeah.
That was me trying not to swear to but yeah, no, you know what I mean? They can reference things like that. I think that's brilliant.
Yeah.
And then this go ahead, Monty.
No, I was just gonna say, and it just adds another element of what, you know, one of my favorite things is the world building and just expanding the universe more and more, you know, tying all these things together. Like, I just love the web that Marvel is weaving. It's like nothing we've ever seen before in terms, there's never been a franchise of movies this big and this interconnected and this interwoven. So anything that adds to that, I'm a huge fan of.
Yeah, great.
And then just one more thing that's kind of been put out there is that Black Adam and Wakanda Forever are shooting pretty much right next to each other, you know, in proximity. And there's been some reports that Dwayne Johnson has been seen on Wakanda Forever set. Now, I don't know if he's just visiting because he knows people. Maybe he, you know, there has been talk about him being in the MCU. So maybe he does show up in Wakanda Forever as, you know, tied to Atlantis or, you know, somewhere else in the movie, but you know, there's some more breadcrumbs there with him possibly being in the MCU
as Black Adam.
What if he's like someone like a Tuma, you know?
Ooh. Well, yeah, I mean, I was thinking, I don't think he's going to be Wakandan, is he? Because his ancestry is
Samoan and Black. Yeah. He's mixed race. Well, I think the main thing actually preventing him, you know, unfortunately, not to shoot the rumor down, but I think that all the MCU actors have clauses in their contracts where they can't do anything for DC. Like, you can't be in both. Like, I'm pretty sure I read. I wish I could cite where I read this, but I remember distinctly reading that if you're signed on to do Marvel movies, you can't do DC.
Well, maybe someone like him, though, they could work something out because he's a pretty, you know, big star now across a lot of different things. And plus, you have James Gunn, who's doing movies for both as well. So
didn't he just recently respond to people asking him whether he was going to run for president or not?
Yeah, he did. So
I think if there's anybody that could work for Marvel and DC, it's going to be the president.
True, he can do anything really. Yeah.
But most likely, though, it's nothing. They're probably just close, probably just, you know, talking to people he knows in the industry. It's probably nothing, but something to keep an eye on, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, certainly. Okay, great. And I know you've got some other pieces of news that you're going to bust into in a news app.
Yep, I need to catch up still, so that I'll record it this weekend or this week. This week,
and you can't blame me. You got your background.
Nope. So. I got in last week, and I was busy this weekend, so. There was no rain. There was no rain here. We had a week of rain. So this weekend I was outdoors the whole weekend.
Do you know what I just found out about Kansas? That Pizza Hut was invented in Kansas. Did you know that?
That what?
Pizza Hut.
Mm-hmm. Pizza what?
Pizza Hut.
Oh, Pizza Hut.
The first Pizza Hut was there. Yeah.
I didn't know that. Yeah. But I don't eat Pizza Hut though. So.
Oh, okay. But I just found that out tonight. And I thought, when I found that out, I was like, I must mention that to Jarian. I wonder if he knows. Anyway. Let's get back to Marvel. So, as we know, it's Eternals week. Eternals is out on Friday. Well, pretty much worldwide. There are some areas where it's still a little bit delayed, and there's other areas where it's the 10th. Yeah, so it's going to be released within the next sort of couple of weeks, pretty much everywhere all over the world. So it only feels right that we sort of go into that a little bit and talk about, like we said, our expectations and what we've seen in the trailers so far, and just our thoughts on Eternals before it happens, and then we can refer back to this episode and see how wrong we all were.
So I got one to start it with then.
Go on in.
Yeah.
I want to see how this movie connects to the greater MCU, like going forward. We know from the past it's going to connect with the snaps and while they're back out from what they've said in the trailers and stuff. And, you know, we'll see a lot of history in this movie, but I want to know how it goes tying forward. So far, the only thing we know is that there's probably some kind of Black Knight tie-in going forward. But I wonder if anything from this film sets up Wakanda forever for a couple things. In one of the trailers, we see like the ocean just being destroyed.
Yes.
Is one. Then in a scene with Icarus and Cersei and Phastos at his house, where Icarus breaks the table, he mentions vibranium. So I wonder with Phastos, the way he is and the powers he has, one, I wonder if he's tied to Wakanda in any way. Because why would they just throw in that vibranium joke in there? Right? And he can manipulate things and control things. I wonder if an eternal crashing is what brings vibranium to Wakanda. And
Celestial.
So the great,
yeah, I'm
so
sorry,
the great,
Celestial.
the
Yeah,
great,
Celestial,
so the
sorry.
great meteor was instead that you know,
Yep.
maybe the armor of a celestial, and that's what they're mining.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and
maybe.
did Phastos show them how to work with it? You know, kind of been, because he's been there for all that time. And then with the oceans, being tore up, is that what triggers Namor?
Yeah, because you know a big part of the Eternal celestial history. They go over it, I believe, in Jack Kirby's run, and if not, then it was in Gaiman's run. But in one of those two runs, they talk about the Great Cataclysm, which was when the Eternals kind of, they kind of were sleeping on the job, and they let the Deviants run amok. The Deviants enslaved all of humanity, and then the Eternals kind of came to their senses. Were like, "Whoa, what's going on here?" They've populated the Earth. They've taken over everything. They call the Celestials, and the Celestials are like, "No, we're not doing this." And they just wiped everything down. They sunk Lemuria. They sunk Atlantis into the ocean, and that was the doing of the Celestials at the behest of the Eternals, who sounded the alarm to them. And then they actually got chastised too because they were sleeping on the job. So it makes perfect sense for there to be some sort of tie-in there from a comics perspective.
And speaking of Atlantis being sunk, are we going to see like ancient Aztec and Mayan cultures? Because we know that with Wakanda Forever and Namor, they're tying Atlantis to Mayan and Aztec culture. So is that going to be one of the ancient civilizations that we see in this movie? And are we going to actually see how that gets sunk maybe as part of the movie?
Yeah.
So
Incas also. The Incas
are
very much, very heavily featured in Jack Kirby's run of the Eternals.
Yeah, so that's gonna be interesting to see how all that ties in. And also to do all the Eternals survive? Some of those earlier trailers looked like someone was not going to survive, but I also heard they rewrote some of the story to change some characters' view going forward as well. So see how that plays out.
I think it would be interesting to see Black Knight and see how his history kind of plays out in this movie. See kind of how far back he goes. Like, is he something that, been there for centuries kind of type deal? Maybe Merlin's involved. I don't know. Like, you get just kind of like a quick little pass through like his history. I don't know.
I don't know. Do you think we'll you see anything? This seems to me more like a setup movie for Black Knight, more like an intro to the MCU than anything substantial Black Knight. Like maybe we'll see some past history with Cersei maybe through all the years, but I don't think we'll see Dane Whitman actually suit up as Black Knight in this movie.
So, just spoiler alert, if that's a thing, I don't know this for a fact, but what I've kind of heard through my sources is that this is not, you won't see Black Knight as Black Knight, but Black Knight's like an archaeologist or something. I think, I don't know if you guys have read the Jack Kirby run of Eternals, but essentially it starts out with Icarus, but we don't know it's Icarus. He's going under the name of Ike Harris. It's Ike Harris, and then there's this real creative. It's Ike Harris. It's this Dr. Damien, who's like a renowned archaeologist, and then his daughter Margot Damien, and they're kind of unearthing this Inca ruin, which actually is really a celestial like communication post or something like that. So I think that we'll see maybe Dane Whitman, Black Knight, as that archaeologist type role, maybe digging up and kind of knows about the Celestials, similar to why am I forgetting his name? The guy from Thor. He was in Thor. He was also in Avengers. Dr. Selvig.
Yes, Eric Selvig.
So it's like in a similar capacity to Eric Selvig from the Avengers. And
I was gonna say Diana Prince. No, seriously, because she kind of was doing that.
No, you're right. Yeah, she's doing the same thing.
Yeah.
I was gonna just say Dr. Alan Grant from Jurassic Park. I was throwing it right out there.
Yeah.
What I was going to say was, is that correct me if I'm wrong. Black Knight is a moniker, isn't it? There's been about 3 or 4 Black Knights.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So I think I agree with you, Jarian, where I don't think we're going to see Kit Harington or Dane Whitman as Black Knight in this movie, but I think we may well see, like what Alex is saying, the history of a Black Knight, of the Black Knight, through the eyes maybe of Cersei or somebody else that's been around, Ajax or whoever, I don't know. That
mantle passed down, like with the blade, the ebony blade or whatever.
Yeah. Maybe he gets it at the end.
I was surprised in credit scene, honestly.
There you go. So we get something like that towards the end, and I think he will become. I mean, and I said this in the last episode. I'm sure I did, that you don't get Kit Harington on to play Dane Whitman in 20 minutes of a movie. They've got him in to be an Avenger.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I also wonder if he ties into Quantum Mania at all too in the future, because remember that city that we saw in the quantum realm. So I wonder if that ties in at all, if that's part of Black Knight or anything too as well.
Interesting.
Yeah, and the ebony blade does have the ability to cut in the comics into other dimensions. So it has shown that ability. Like, first of all, by the way, like I was kind of just prepping for this. I was looking through like the power set and the list of abilities that Dane Whitman Black Knight has. Like, it's insane. Like he's going to be a beast if they even do like half of what he's able to do. Like, he can't be killed while he's using the blade. He can cut through almost anything except for adamantium and probably vibranium. He can, summon the blade to his hand like Thor does with Mjolnir. Like, he's impervious to magic. He can deflect. It's like it's actually kind of insane, and it makes sense for him to kind of tie into Multiverse of Madness, because he has a very deep magic mystical background, being connected to Merlin, King Arthur, and that whole mythology there.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. I mean, and I think I said this in previous episodes as well. Being a British person, I'm interested to see a Brit play a Brit and be bring that, represent that sort of outside of the Atlantic.
That's cool.
In those people, in those circles. I tell you what I'm really interested to see, and over Jarian's left shoulder there's Leah McHugh as Sprite, and she's 16, the actress, and Sprite is obviously billions of years old. So it'd be interesting to see how good she is, to be totally honest. And I'm not going to beat around the bush. It'd be interesting to see if a young actor can portray an old soul. And I don't know anything about Liz McHugh at all. I've not seen her in anything before. I don't even know what she's been in, if I'm totally honest. And I don't mean to sound derogatory. I just don't. I'll be interested to see how she does.
Yeah, it's super interesting. I thought, for Sprite, they could have grabbed, did you guys see Umbrella Academy? I don't remember all the numbers, but there's the one who's in a similar situation where he's an old man, but he's actually in the younger, number 5. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, if 5 could do it, if that actor, I think, we've got a good history of actors, young actors that are able, Dakota Fanning, for example, that can play these more mature, old soul type roles. I hope that she can pull it off too, because she really, really needs to sell that, because, Sprite's 11, but also, or 12, but also millions of years old, as you said, Andy. So like, that's a hard thing to kind of reconcile.
Another one over Jarian's right shoulder, Lauren Ridolph, Lauren Ridolph, the Death Lady.
Yes.
I've seen her in Walking Dead, and she's good. To be totally honest, I'll be honest, I didn't realize she was actually deaf, which she is. And it'll be interesting to see her in a different role from what I've seen her in Walking Dead. So looking forward to seeing her too. But and I think this whole movie does seem like an exploit. Sorry, I'm getting attacked by a little fly. this whole movie does seem like an exploration of differences, doesn't it? It's almost what the X-Men was when X-Men was first written and put on paper, you know, this kind of, you know, diversity thing, you know, where there's differences in people, but you know, that's kind of what the X-Men was about, I believe, when it was first written. And I see this being that same sort of following that pattern. So I think it would be really interesting to see if they can make it count. Do you know what I mean? Like make it valuable, and not just oh, we've done this because. I trust that they can, and I hope that they do. But
they can have like a long-term impact almost.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and I think linking what you've just said there, Alex, to Jarian's point about how this is going to make an impact on the MCU going forward. You know, the world is a changing place, and lots of things that have wrongly not been acceptable in the past are now rightly acceptable and okay, and should be okay. And you know, representation is huge. And why not, if you've got a medium like Marvel Studios or Marvel and the MCU, why not celebrate that and use it? And I think, like you're saying, Alex, you know, going forward, it might change what people perceive as normal.
Yeah.
Right. Or as what is perceived as great, right? Because the Eternals, what are they? They're gods, you know, they essentially, right? They're mistaken even for gods in the comics and whatnot. And you know, a big I think shortcoming of Jack Kirby's original fleshing out of these characters and development of the characters is, you know, and this is not an offense to the white audience, but you know, that they were all white, you know, like that was a perfect opportunity to show that, you know, everybody can be great. You know, you can have representation. And I really like the rainbow cast that we have here, you know, in the MCU's version, in the modern version of it, you know, because you can't just, you know, you can't say like, all right, so here's the angelic, you know, protectors who basically represent the pinnacle of what's perfect in humanity, and
they're all white.
They're all white people, you know,
all like, straight white people.
Well, not just white, but also all male too. So they did do gender swaps, and I want to read something that Chloe Zhao mentioned on gender swaps, and she said, when I came to the process at the beginning, I read a treatment. But I believe Kevin Feige made and the team at Marvel Studios put together, and those decisions were made. That's probably one of the reasons that really drew me to it. I thought it wasn't just, oh, let's swap a bunch of characters. It was specifically chosen, like the leader of the team to be a mother figure. It was a very easy decision we made. So.
Yeah, so you've got so Ajak and Makari, who Lauren Rindoff is playing, were male, weren't they? In the comics. So Ajak. Because Makari in Gaiman's run was called Mark someone, weren't it?
Yeah, Mark Curry.
Yeah, Mark Curry, that's it. Yeah.
Mercury.
Genius. Who could that be? Who could that be?
I wonder.
I'd even get that one. But yeah, so I think that I think it's cool. And I tie back like what you was just saying there, Monty, about anyone in any position can be great. And I tie it back, and I don't want to get stuck into the conversation now because we've had it before, but I tie it back, and I think you opened my eyes to it with what you said about T'Challa and about why T'Challa is such an important character to young black males, that it was like, look at this guy. He is the damn king. He is rich. He is powerful. He is a leader. He is respected. He's not just, and this is no disrespect to any other black character that's in Marvel, but he's not just another black character that's come from Harlem. Do you know what I mean? He's like, he is the king. You know, you can be a king.
You can be that. Exactly.
Exactly. And
and one of the most powerful things with T'Challa too, like I mentioned, we talked about before, is that when he had Fantastic Four there, and you see him sitting on the throne, and you see Fantastic Four, Marvel's first family, below him, the way they had that picture was. And so that was a very powerful picture. And, you know, that's why that's so important to the MCU.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. Agreed. But we won't get into a T'Challa recasting argument right now.
Yep. Moving on. So one thing too is with this film that I've been reading, it's on track to make 90 to 100 million opening weekend. It's tracking more towards 100 million. I think the last figure I read was like 96 point something million. But there's been some so-so reviews out there. Most reviews I've read have been good. But there's people who haven't seen the movie that are review bombing it just for the sake of a same-sex couple with a child, which I think is sad.
Yeah, that is very sad. It's very sad.
It's so unnecessary, isn't it? Why bother? Just shut up. Why bother saying anything?
Right.
Yeah.
And especially in today's world, like there's definitely like a lot more quote unquote controversial things in that. And that's not even controversial. I'm just saying there's way other things to be like that you can focus your time
be triggered about
energy be triggered on than two people taking care of a kid. Like,
I was just about to, I was going to say the exact same thing there. Oh my God, look what a big thing to have a row about. There's a child that's being looked after by two people who really care about each other. And
right. How awful.
How bad is that? So terrible.
Yeah, I really want to see this movie crush it just to kind of shut those haters up. Number one, and then number two, like kind of on the vein is that Eternals is kind of a deep cut from Marvel, right? It's kind of digging in the crate a little bit more than I expected that they would try to at this point. But it opens the door up for a lot of other, characters if they can get this to work. So that makes me feel really good that it's trending to do that 100 million, because if it gets into that mark, then then we're going to see a lot of other things that maybe we never thought possible to come out of Marvel and see on the big screen. That makes me hype.
Definitely interesting timing for this movie, because you're right. This is kind of a deep reach into the cast of characters they're doing with this film. But this could be seen kind of like more of like a pivot type film too, because think about it, like Monty said, you can do so much after this film when it opens up. They're going to go through 7,000 years of history in this film. And so what other things are we going to see branch off from this going through that 7,000 years of history?
Well, there you go. See, this is a conversation. Do you think this could potentially be a route into the X-Men?
Possibly, because with we most likely Celestials are involved, vibranium's involved. Like I said, probably going to have the meteor with the vibranium crashed. Who knows what else crashed on Earth, which could cause the X gene, which could cause mutants, which could cause other things, vampires, werewolves, zombies, all those different characters as well. So there's a lot of things they can go with this by the effects of the Eternals, the history, and also Celestials as well. Like, for instance, they could even do Dracula in this movie as a tease if they wanted to. Remember, 7,000 years of history. So there could be some tease to Dracula for Blade coming up later on.
They could do Atlantis.
Yeah, Atlantis. They can even probably do some tie to Moon Knight if they wanted to with ancient Egypt and the Egyptians. So
Ramotut.
Yep. Yeah. There you go as well.
And
Kang,
then ties back again.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that the X-Men, I think they almost they don't have to, but I think they almost have to. It's just such a great opportunity for them because you have the X-Men, you have the Deviants, right? And then you have the Eternals, and then you have humanity. Those are the three races that were diverged from a single common ancestor by celestial experimentation, or so it goes in the comics. So the main thing about humans, which was basically done by one of the Eternals, I think it was Ogden or Odin the Prober or something like that, but he was the one who worked with humanity, and he put the potential for latent abilities within humanity. So it explains a lot because, for example, the MCU is trying to be more grounded. And one way to be more grounded is to explain how the MCU is a little bit different than real life, or how their universe is a little bit different. Because in real life, there's no there's steroids, but there's no super soldier serum in real life. And in real life, if someone, falls into a radioactive cloud, they're not going to turn into the Hulk. They're going to turn into a giant tumor, right?
Maybe not.
That's what typically going to happen in our world. So like the reason for that is that celestial experimentation. So I think just the fact of there being Eternals and there being Deviants and then their origin, I think that has to naturally pave the way for humanity to develop powers in other ways, and I think that's where they'll go with mutants. I just don't know if they'll do it like one event and then they have the mutants start, or have mutants been there all along and they've been in hiding and just haven't been talked about.
I'll keep going back to my Anchorman, thing I keep saying in our group. When he calls on the news team to assemble and like, hey, we've been here the entire time. That's exactly how I see mutants coming in. It's like they're going to be here the entire time. When we get the mutants or the property they're working on at Marvel, the first one they announced that's in the lineup at some point, they're going to be like probably flashbacks or like, I think Alec mentioned before, maybe, Steve Rogers goes past, crosses paths with Logan, doesn't know it, those type of things where they've crossed paths all throughout Marvel history. We just haven't seen it yet, but they've always been there in the background.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, that'd be interesting. Is there any more thoughts on Eternals before we close off the Eternals conversation?
Yeah. So go ahead.
Yeah, you go ahead.
I'll say so. There's two things here. We're gonna see Marvel's first sex scene in the movie between I think Cersei and Icarus. I believe what I've read. Or was it Dane? I don't know, but that was out there. One of the reviews that was a non-spoiler review that I read. The other one too. Superman exists in the MCU because of this film now.
Oh yeah.
One of the trailers, Phastos' son mentioned Superman
kids,
to Icarus. Yeah. So that's kind of interesting. So you want what's his name, Cavill, to come into the MCU? He can just come in as Superman. He exists.
DC versus Marvel.
Well, we know that Superman exists, and we know that Star Wars exists as well.
Yep. It's Star Wars as well.
True.
So
so that's really interesting.
So the real quick, just what I wanted to see, I actually took just a couple notes, and I'll just kind of run through them very fast. Is more about the origins of the Marvel universe. Where the Celestials coming from. Why are they there? What's their purpose? How are they influencing things? I also want to see just on that note, how does Ego tie into the rest of the Celestials? Because Celestials have been depicted as these giant suits, but Ego is a planet. How did that diverge? But
Ego is kind of like an in between though, because in some areas in the comics he's not a Celestial, some he is. MCU, I believe they said he was Celestial, and so Ego is kind of that Celestial gray area.
I mean, in the comics, he's been pretty consistently an elder of the universe. And he's been the planet. So it's like he's very different looking. So he may skate that boundary, but in terms of looks wise, I just want to get that. And then also the other thing is I want to see, somehow they explain the backstory of Thanos a little bit more. And Galactus. I would love to hear some sort of mention, tease, Easter egg, something of even if they just say the Devourer, something like that, I'd go crazy.
I'd like to add one more thing to that too. I want some backstory on Nowhere.
I was just getting ready to say the
were
same
you?
thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna be like, I want to know, is the God Killer armor out there, and, a Celestial War, and the aspirants, and all that.
Was it Null?
Yeah.
Right. Who cut that head off?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I mean, if there was some type of war, that could also be a reason why, a Celestial crashes into Earth too.
Yep.
So
good point.
What if it's Nowhere's body?
Yeah.
Yeah, because Monty brought up the point that that they're mining vibranium, and we know that on Nowhere they're mining the
head for resources. Yep.
Yeah, the head. So there's that little sort of
possible
thing there. Could they be mining the body of Nowhere? Is that what?
And didn't they say they mined the blood too? So couldn't that have led to the root?
It took everything,
the purple root,
Oh right, yeah, gotcha, yeah.
Or also too, if it's not Nowhere, is this a new Celestial? Like one that's been there, that's been dormant, maybe.
Like the Dreaming Celestial.
Yep, exactly.
Example.
Yep, I couldn't think of the name. Yep,
Tiamat.
Yeah.
Is that the one that was did in Gaiman's run? Did something land, or was it always there? What were they trying to fight at the end in the park?
So there's been two Celestials that ended up on Earth in the comics. There was the older one who was the Mad Celestial, which was killed by the Prehistoric Avengers, and then that body was there. And then there was the one that was asleep, which was Tiamat, the Dreaming Celestial.
It was that one, right?
And he was the one who rebelled against the other Celestials when they decided to just decimate the Deviants, as opposed to Tiamat felt they should have wiped the Earth clean. And they all turned on him, and they couldn't kill him because he's too powerful. So they put him to sleep under a mountain in the Earth.
And we know we get at least one Celestial in this film is the judge, right?
Yeah, Arsham the judge.
Arsham the judge. I don't know if we got the Searcher or not, but I know we get at least the judge.
He's on the Searcher, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we saw him in the Guardians of the Galaxy with the Power Stone.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay. Well, before we move on from Eternals, we'll do this. Let's do this now, Monty, because Monty's prepared some questions for us. Because I know Alex loves a question.
Yeah. Sure.
And I don't know what these questions are, so I'm taking part as well. So, Jarian, are you listening? Because we've got some questions coming up.
I am.
And Monty's got four questions. Am I right?
Yeah. Just some 4 quick Eternals trivia questions here that'll get. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, guys, don't answer straight away if you know the answer, because give anybody listening a chance to answer the questions as well. So go on then, Monty, let's go.
All right. So the first one, Alars, the Eternal, is Thanos' father. Which Eternal is Thanos' mother?
Oh, I know the brother.
I read this.
Yeah.
Literally I'm kicking myself now. I'm going to kick myself when you tell me the answer to this.
Are you guys ready?
Yeah.
All right. So her name is Sui-san.
Sui-san, that's it.
SUI-SAN.
I read it a little while ago because I was reading the Captain Marvel the life and death of Captain Marvel, and it was in there.
Yep.
Go on in.
All right. So this one comes out of Gaiman's run, and also the newer one, Gillian's run of the Eternals. And it is what is the exclusion point, and what is its 2 functions? What is the exclusion point? Was its 2 functions? This is actually a pretty important concept, and this is also, I didn't mention this before because I didn't want to give up my question, but this is one thing I want to see, this and also the machine that they refer to. I want to see how they talk about these concepts in the movie. But what is the exclusion point?
Is this? Go on, Joe.
No, go ahead. You're fine.
I was going to say, is this got something to do with the Deviants?
No, it's just the Eternals.
Okay,
never mind. Yeah, I was thinking about Deviants too.
All right,
I don't know them.
All right, so the exclusion point is basically it exists in Antarctica, and it is a place where it's the place where all the Eternals, whenever they die, they get resurrected to.
Oh, that's right. Because that's when you see, I think, the picture of Selma Hayek and the power, and she wakes up. Yes, that's right.
They all, whenever they die, because they're immortal, but they're not unkillable.
Yep.
Right? They can be killed. It takes a lot to kill them because they're super strong or whatever, but they're not invincible. But they get resurrected and reconstituted at the exclusion point. So that's the first purpose. The other purpose is the exclusion point serves as like a jail. So if an Eternal does something that the other Eternals goes against their directives, they lock them in there. So Sprite, for example, when Sprite wiped all their minds, Sprite got locked in there. When it was not Kronos, but the other one, I forgot his name. Wow, can't believe it. But Kronos fought another Eternal who they disagreed on what to do with humanity, and that other Eternal felt that they should take over world. So he was excluded. It's called being excluded.
I really should have read Gaiman's run again, because now you're talking about this, it's all coming back to me now.
Yeah,
same. I haven't read a lot of Eternal stuff in a while.
Okay. All right. So let me keep going. Let's see. What is the name of the celestial who is responsible for the creation of the Deviants? So they had different. There's Geminon the Gatherer, and then you had Nazar the Calculator. So they all had. There's a few celestials that had a hand in humanity, the Eternals, and the Deviants, but there's one specifically that created the Deviants.
The probe. Was that the?
Ogden or Ognon the Prober. That's Hughes humanity.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's
So
humanity.
He's the one who put the X gene in humanity. So close.
Oh, no, you just said Nazar, didn't you? It's not Nazar.
Yeah. It's not Nazar the Calculator.
No, I don't know.
Ersham?
No, that's
Judge.
so he was the head of the host.
Oh, that's right.
So he's the one who kind of told them what to do. But,
yeah.
But it was Xeron the Tester.
Xeron.
Yep. The tester. Yep.
Yeah, Xeron the Tester. So that's who created the Deviants. All right.
They're experiments.
Yeah,
Hence,
exactly.
they're on the tester.
Exactly. So, last question is, why do the Deviants worship the Dreaming Celestial? And I kind of touched on it already earlier, but and actually, I think this is in Gaiman's run too. It's either in Gaiman's or in Gillian's run. Because those are my favorite ones. The first run, I think Jack Kirby's run for me is a little dry.
Isn't it?
It's yeah.
It's something with the powers, or they're scared of them, or something like that.
So let me know if you're ready.
Yeah, go on. I don't know.
Yeah, go ahead.
So Tiamat, the Dreaming Celestial, is worshipped by the Deviants, but it's actually a mistake. So essentially, when the Deviants took over the Earth, and then the Celestials came and almost wiped them out, reduced their number just to thousands when there was millions of them. Tiamat rebelled against the other Celestials because he felt, okay, well, that proves that all of the life forms were a failure, so we need to wipe the whole planet clean. And all the other ones were like, no, we just need to wipe the Deviants down to a small number and then go from there. So because of that rebel, there was a huge fight, and the Deviants mistook that as he was
protection
fighting for them, but he wasn't. Yeah,
that is in Gaiman's run.
Yep,
that's in Gaiman's run. Exactly.
Yeah. Again, now you've said it, I remember it.
Yeah, man. So yep, those are my 4.
Excellent. Love that. Love a little bit of trivia there, Monty.
I think I can read those now.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Definitely. Those are the 3 kind of, for me, definitive runs. You could also read Thor 300. So like Thor 300 and around there. But the main runs that'll tell you are Gillian's run, Gaiman's run, and then Jack Kirby's original run, and then that should give you enough to go into the movies.
Kirby's drawings are fantastic. Kirby's drawings in that are
absolutely,
fantastic. Yes, absolutely brilliant. Love it. And I think out of the 3, I'm not to be honest, I wasn't a big fan of the artwork in Gaiman's run. I like the story, but I wasn't a fan of the artwork. But in Kirby's, the drawing is just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Anyway, sorry, Jarian, go on.
No, say if you have Marvel Unlimited too, you can go on there and search by different and follow different characters like the Eternals or other ones, and also they have recommended readings too. So if you have Marvel Unlimited, which I've been reading stuff on there, because I can take it anywhere with me, and there's no more stuff I have to buy to the house. I don't get in trouble. So it's not everything's on there, but it's good. Because what have I been reading? I've reading some of the Null stuff, and then I started going back and reading Namer stuff as well. So
oh, okay, nice.
And
I've just searched something that was just totally irrelevant. I'm trying to find something that I want to talk about in a minute. Done it all wrong. There we go. Found it. Brilliant. Thank you, Monty, for that.
Yeah,
that's great. We love a bit of trivia on here, and especially when it's really difficult, and it reminds us that we need to go back and do our research.
Yeah.
Especially before the movie comes out that we're supposed to be doing a preview for.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, you know what? Like we've never. I remember saying to a young lad once, he said he was an expert in something to me. He was only like 18, and he went, "Oh yeah, I'm an expert in that." And I was like, "Here's a tip for you: don't ever claim to be an expert in anything."
Yeah,
you could always learn more.
Yep.
You should be an ever learner, and I would never claim to be an expert in MCU, Marvel comics, or anything. Doesn't matter.
Sure.
Even what I do as a job, I wouldn't claim to be an expert.
The more I read comics, the more I realize all the stuff I don't know and don't remember.
Yep, same.
About comics. That's pretty much the more comics I read, what that gives me. So I could never be an expert. I just study and read and share what I know.
Yeah. And on that note, then. Talking about reading and studying comics and learning things that you didn't know before. Just changing the subjects before we close up the episode today. And as we've said, we're going to try and talk about comics a little bit more. Not necessarily, this isn't brand new comic at all, what I'm about to talk about, but it's something else we've been doing in Marvel, and like we, as in us here. I recently read a run that was the run that introduced Phil Coulson to the comics. Now, for those that don't know, that are listening, Coulson, obviously played by Clark Gregg in the MCU, was an original character for the MCU, and he was so successful that they actually introduced him. I believe he was introduced first into the Spider-Man cartoon. I might have got this round the wrong way, but
Ultimate Spider-Man, yeah.
Yeah, he was introduced into the Spider-Man cartoon, was he? And then they introduced him into the comics. Now, I knew that. That's what they did. I didn't know where they introduced him, though. And I read the Fear Itself, crossover event, which it got a little bit of a bashing for, I think, at a time. But actually, I quite enjoyed it. And there's a moment in it, and I won't ruin it for anybody that wants to see it, but there's a moment in it that's a very rare moment in Marvel, and it's worth reading almost just for that one moment, especially if you're a fan of the particular character. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go and read it, and then you'll go, "Oh right, yeah, I see what you mean." But anyway, it comes off the back of Fear Itself, and it basically follows I won't give it away too much, but it follows the story of an army soldier, a ranger, and it turns out that his friend is actually Phil Coulson, and it completely blindsided me throughout the entire of this comic. He doesn't look necessarily like Phil Coulson. I mean, I suppose he does when you know at the end that he's got a suit on and all of that. I thought it was a really sort of neat way to introduce him. And again, I don't want to say too much in case anybody wants to go and read it, but it's called Battle Scars. It's called Battle Scars, the run. And it's actually Matt Fraction who's involved in it, along with Cullen Bunn and Christopher Yost. And Matt Fraction's the same guy that's run the Hawkeye Life as a Weapon run that it looks like the Hawkeye series is going to be based off of. And I think you can tell it's got some of that sharp dialogue in it that you get in that Hawkeye series. But yeah, it's really good. Battle Scars, those three guys, so Bunn, Fraction and Yost, runs off the back of Fear Itself from about 2015. Oh no, earlier than that, 2011. And it's the introduction of Phil Coulson and another character as well. Well, not necessarily the introduction, but the birth, I guess, of another character, which is really, really important character going forward. But yeah, really good.
Matt Fraction's great, man. I really enjoy his work.
Yeah, I mean, I read the Hawkeye run a little while ago because, coming up to this show. I picked this one up because of that, to be totally honest. And I didn't know that the Coulson introduction was in this. I picked it up because of the Fraction name. And it was well worth it. And I thoroughly enjoyed it, actually. Monty, did you say you not Monty, sorry. Jarian, did you say you was reading something at the moment?
Yeah, I was finishing some of the Null stuff, and then I started going back and reading the Namor stuff just to see where I can make some connections with Eternals, but also try to see if I can see any more connections for Wakanda Forever.
Did you?
A little bit, and then Monty just said some stuff. Also maybe do some more thinking about it too, about crashing and going back 7,000 years and all that kind of stuff. So we'll see.
Nice. What is that? Any particular comics that you're reading? Anything that you can recommend to anybody?
I just went to Marvel Unlimited, did Namor, and started reading.
Excellent. Easy.
Yeah.
Easy. Just search the character you like. Well, before I'll come to you in a minute, Alex. But before we get Monty, have you been reading anything different at the moment? Anything to anybody?
So a really good one that I recommend. I especially recommend it to people who maybe are MCU fans but not necessarily comic fans. Is Marvel Legacy, and Marvel Legacy is it's a really get the trade paperback of Marvel Legacy. It's I don't know, maybe about 60, 70 pages, something like that. You go through it pretty quickly, but the first story it starts with is that story I mentioned about the Prehistoric Avengers. So apparently there are Avengers actually back. So there's it's Agamotto, it's the Phoenix, it's Odin in Thor's place. It's like Krog or somebody who's like the Hulk of that group, and it's really cool to see like a prehistoric, prehistory take on what we know the Avengers to be. So that part's really cool. But the other really cool part about it is it goes through the origin of so many characters, all in this trade paperback. So you'll see how the Fantastic Four, the X-Men, it goes through so many different characters. It's a great, I think, kind of like jumping on point for people who want to get a lot of, a broad but light intro into the backgrounds, a lot of the characters. It literally goes through everyone, Punisher, everyone you name it, and they're kind of anyone that's really popular, they're in there, and it spends about a page or two kind of like on their backstory, and that's like half the book.
That's like Savage Land in that one too.
I don't know if it's necessarily the Savage Land. It's just a long time ago. It doesn't necessarily say where it is, but I think that actually might be. Now that you mention it, I think it might be the Savage Land.
Because that sounds familiar. I had that reaction. Yeah. I thought that's where. I'll have to go look at that one again too.
Marvel Legacy.
Nice. I was just about to say something and I completely forgotten what it was now. Never mind. I'll come back to that later. Alex, look, you've had her on display the whole time. Come on, let's talk about her a little bit more.
This Polaris Funko is awesome. Like, I absolutely love it. It glows in the dark too. I haven't actually tried it, but it's one of those cool glow in the dark ones. Yeah.
I think they all do, don't they? All of those X-Men ones do. The Gambit one I was telling you about before we came on here. I'm sure that one glows in the dark. So I reckon they all do.
Yeah, I've seen that one in person, and that one does glow in the dark. It looks really cool too, with I think it's got like him doing the little wave of energy or whatever in front of him. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. But yeah, this one's really cool. So her hands glow, and I think her eyes glow as well. So it's kind of like she's got her hands up, and she's basically doing because she's got magnetic powers, so it's kind of like a play on the magnetic powers, so but yeah, I mean there's a bunch of cool ones in that run. They've also got a Archangel one too, which is kind of cool. Yeah,
nice. Yeah, she's really cool actually. She looks mean as well.
Yeah it's honestly one of my favorite Funkos I think I've seen, because it's even got her hovering off the ground and everything, floating,
she's floating. Yeah, I like those ones. I've got a few of those. Yeah, nice. I managed to get my hands on 2 of the 80-year X-Men ones. I know you've seen them, but the guys listening might not have seen them. But yeah, 2 of the 80-year X-Men ones. I got Miss Marvel and Beast. But I like that. I like the look of them. They're in their original outfits. The blue and yellow outfits. There's an Angel, there's a Cyclops, and there's an Iceman that I want to get as well. And I've wanted to get them all, but that's a big purchase in one go. Yeah. And I've been a little bit reluctant to do it. And then I was out at the weekend and I saw these 2 for £5 each. So basically it was 2 Funkos for the price of 1. So I was like, yep, I'm doing it.
That Iceman one is awesome too, because I have that one, and I also have another Iceman one, but they're both very similar. It's just him shooting ice out in front of him, kind of type deal, if I remember correctly. So
Iceman was almost made to be a Funko.
Yeah.
Like he's just got the perfect like his character, like look and shape, and not whole lot going on, but he looks perfect as a Funko.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it right now over the top of my screen, but it's not finished yet. And my son bought. Well, actually, it was bought for him. It was a plain Funko. It was just white.
Oh yeah,
wow.
Yeah, so it was paint your own, like design your own Funko. So he's used. Well, I say he, my wife and him have used modeling clay, and he's made a like a Call of Duty type character. So it's got like a gas. It's got like a gas mask on, and it's got like a vest on, and he's got
cool.
like the straps over the head, and it looks really good actually. And he's not quite finished yet. So, but when he is finished, I'll bring him on. I'll bring him on camera and show everybody.
Nice.
And I'll tell him, and he'll be well happy about that it's got on. But
nice.
Yeah, so I know what that thing that I was going to mention. I can't remember what it is now, and it's driving me mad because it was a really good point. But never mind. I'm sure it'll come back to me at some point.
As soon as you get off camera, you remember it.
Was it Eternals related?
No, I don't think so.
Comic
no,
related?
I don't think it was Eternals related.
I think I was talking about Marvel Legacy and the primers for all the characters and jumping on point, something like that.
Yeah, it was literally just right around that time, and I can't think of what it was. But never mind. I don't think it was anything too important, and it was something that must have been covered. That's for certain. But yeah, guys, listen. Has anybody been up to anything else in regards to Marvel this week before we close off this episode?
Not Marvel, but I'm trying to find a Castle of Lions toy for my son for Christmas.
Castle of Lions? What's Castle of Lions?
Voltron. I also do a lot of Voltron stuff too. So yeah, I found one on eBay. I'm bidding on. We'll see how much damage it does before I bow out.
I'll tell you something. I'll tell you something kind of cool. I found so there's like some Darkhold one shots they're doing now. Like, and they've got like one, I think it's like Doom, like one's like Scarlet Witch, I think one's like the Wasp. And I've been kind of like looking at those online, so I don't really know much about them, but I'm just I think it's just like one issue per character if I'm correct. Yeah, so like, and I know the one with Wanda has got like her with the Darkhold in front of her, like floating in front of her. The one with Doctor Doom has like the Darkhold floating in front of him. So it's like, I don't know. I'm gonna look into that and probably try and read those.
Which reminds me,
that's right.
Yeah, speaking of one shots, I thought I read somewhere that Marvel's going to start doing more of those again.
I was just going to say I love them. As a comic book reader, I absolutely love one shots. If you can tell a good story in 1 to 3 issues, I think that's great. You don't need a huge I don't need to be looking through a whole trade paperback just to get the story. Like, I love a good one shot.
Well, this one's more like the All Hail the King one. I think they're going to be doing more of those. I thought filming those as they tie more things together. I got to go back and look for that, but I thought I read they're going to do that because there was there was one they had where it was pre-Avengers or something else that they didn't end up doing. And it would have changed some of the MCU course. I got to go back and look. Maybe it was in the Marvel Studios book that I have. The story of Marvel Studios, or I saw somewhere else, but I thought they were gonna be doing those one shots again.
I know what it was now. What that thing was, I forgot. And it was talking about introductions to characters, and it was based on one of Fred Carmichael's Agree or Disagree, and it was I say what I'm reading now was inspired by that. He said, agree or disagree, Silver Surfer should show up before Galactus. And I said I agree. I think he should. I think it would be really cool to see a Silver Surfer origin, and then at the end of that, tease Galactus. So see him as Norrin Rad before on Zenla, and all of that. And it made me think, you know what? I'm going to go back and I'm going to read some Silver Surfer origin stuff. So that's exactly what I'm doing right now, going back to read the original sort of Silver Surfer stuff. And I think you forget how. He's quite naive, actually, isn't he, Silver Surfer? He's really naive, but just ridiculously knowledgeable. Like, how can somebody be that naive and have that much knowledge? Like, but he's very much like he sort of trusts everybody until he trusts
smarts and street smarts.
Yeah, exactly. I was about to say the same thing.
Book smarts and street smarts. To go with that, by the way, there is for whoever has Disney Plus. On Disney Plus, there is a Silver Surfer cartoon. It aired in the 90s. I highly recommend you, if you're getting into Silver Surfer, watch that, because it's actually very true to the comic, to like the initial kind of Silver Surfer kind of ignoring Rad, trading himself, for his planet kind of thing, and I'll go get you other better tasty planets to eat. Don't worry about this one. And I think that's a really good thing to watch if you're digging into Silver Surfer, Andy.
Yeah, I have seen that, and it's do you know what? Regardless of the story, regardless of anything, it's great classic 90s cartoon style.
Right.
It's good.
Hand drawn.
Yep.
Yeah. Just the way that it's presented, the way that the voice acting is done, the score and the music to it, and the soundtrack to it is excellent. It's quite nostalgic watching it, actually. And do you know what? And this is going to sound like this is a bold statement. I actually enjoyed I say rewatching that. I'd never watched it in the 90s, but I actually enjoyed watching that more than I did rewatching some of the X-Men 90s stuff, which is what really got me into Marvel in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of when it kind of changed styles a little bit, I think. Was that? Yep.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, some of that X-Men 90s stuff, I kind of, don't get wrong, at the time it was brilliant. I loved it as a kid. But going back to watching it now, I don't know. Some of the dialogue I find that just tremendously cheesy, and I know that most 90s cartoons dialogue is cheesy. I mean, Thundercats and He-Man and the Turtles and all of that. I get it, but I almost couldn't look past it when I was watching the X-Men. Yeah. So, but Silver Surfer didn't. I think Silver Surfer lends itself to be different anyway. He's from Zenlar. He's from this other planet. It's cosmic. It's where the X-Men are on Earth, and they're not real. I get that, but
what's interesting to that point about Silver Surfer and should he appear first or whatnot. Like, if you would have told me that they even 5 years ago, if you would have told me that the whole Infinity Saga and everything in MCU would be wrapped up and we wouldn't even have seen Adam Warlock at all, I would have been like, you're crazy. There's no way you could do that story. That's insane. That sounds terrible. I hate it already, and and then now, here we are, 2021, Adam Warlock is still, we just now got got clarity on who's cast for that character. And he's not going to have anything to do with the Thanos Infinity Saga. And we're all very happy with how everything's played out. So maybe the Silver Surfer might be able to, kind of come in without, with
Galactus.
You might be able to see Galactus first without the Silver Surfer, maybe, And
just going on the Adam Warlock thing and the Adam Warlock and Thanos, do you think we're going to see Magus make Thanos his bitch like he does in the comics? He basically just makes him his bitch, doesn't he? So
I'd love to see it, but I think Thanos is done in the MCU.
Yeah, the only Thanos probably sees it in flashbacks, maybe in the Eternals or a flashback down the line or a reference to him. But I don't think we're going to see Thanos unless for some reason maybe they use Adam Warlock, with his tie to the Soul Stone and how he transferred, the stone to living beings. Maybe he does some kind of reversal and brings Thanos back. Maybe.
Yeah, I think in the same vein as what I've sort of been spouting about Steve Rogers and Tony Stark, where we can't see them if we are going to see them again, we can't see them again for another 6 or 7 years. I'd say the same for Thanos as well. It has to. We have to leave that in the past now. That's done. Let's move on. We can come back to them at some point if we can somehow. However,
what if they
big threat?
Yeah, what if they do like an Adam Warlock movie and the whole thing about the Soul Stone and pulling souls back from the Soul World or type thing?
Or Infinity Watch, maybe they do an Infinity Watch where, because that was the main thing with Adam Warlock, with him, Infinity Watch and like watching all the stones, and he divides them all up and actually gives one to Thanos for some reason. But yeah, that might be a cool thing down the line for him to be involved in. Pip Patrol.
I was thinking the whole Soul World thing. What's that?
Pip the Troll. I was thinking about Pip the Troll as well. That'd be cool to see on
speaking
screen.
Of that, should we talk about the news out there for the casting, or leave that until after the movie review?
Yeah, leave it. Leave.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry, I see where you're going now. Yeah, leave. Yeah.
Okay, I'll leave it off.
That. Yeah, leave that off. Yeah. So let's close off now, then, lads. I mean, like I said, my tickets are booked for Eternals for Saturday.
Mine too. Thursday.
I'll probably
Excellent.
go Friday while the kids are in school with my wife.
Nice.
This weekend.
Nice. So we all should be good to record on Sunday evening.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Our review episodes. Yeah.
Yep. Looking forward to it.
Fantastic. Yeah, me too. Fellas, it's been an absolute.
Is it real quick? Are we gonna do a Men on Film review? I'm just kidding. Go ahead and wrap it up.
I did throw a little joke in there, didn't you? No, we'll do our honest review, Jarian. I think
I'm just playing.
Yeah, I know you are. Guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for listening, everybody. Remember to get onto the Facebook group, Marvel D&T Evolution. We're on Instagram. We're on Twitter. We are on YouTube. We've got our YouTube channel up and running now where you can, if you're listening to us, you can see our beautiful faces and see how, if I'm catching up beard-wise to Jarian yet.
Well, the YouTube channel we have to redo, but the Instagram has the last 2 videos on it.
There we go.
So I have to go back and fix the old ones to rebrand them. So
excellent. All right then, guys. It's been a pleasure. Catch you again. Take care.
Take care. Thanks for having me.
Why don't you tell them about the time we faced